Hi, this is Jim, and I'd like to talk a little bit about guards, parries, and invitations. So if you look in Barbasetti, he uses the same plates to talk about these. And there's a good reason for that. They are very similar, if not identical in some cases, visually. However, their purpose is distinct. And so very briefly, I would like to talk about what that is. So let's start with guards. I think one of the things that trips people up about guards is that we see all, say, 6 or 7, depending on who you're reading, in the book, but we really only use 2. And so that kind of throws things off. There are actually that many guards, but we don't use them all the time, and we don't use them the same way. It might help to think of this in earlier terms. So if you think about like Fiore early on and his Finestra, this is just one guard, right? I've got Breve, Mezzano Porta de Ferro, all these different guards that I adopt for specific reasons. That might be a more useful way to think of it. So in Barbasetti and most Radiellian, there are 2 that are the most important. There's second and third, and they're pretty static. So that's one thing about guards. They tend to be in a relatively the same position every time. If I'm in third, I'm pointing at your eyes. If I'm in second, I'm pointing at your hip. Those are the 2 we use most often. Second is the guard, and it's used for the assault or bout and for duels, which we don't have anymore. The other guards are really pedagogical in purpose, right? I might have somebody do everything from 5th just to work from 5th and give that some exercise. But very rarely are they going to adopt that in a bout. They might. If they do, it becomes an invitation. Why? Because the invitations are just that. It's, hey, come hit me in this line that's not closed, right? And so if I'm in 5th, you're not going to attack to my head. I mean, if you do, great. I would love that. But you're probably not, right? You're going to go below it. If I'm over here in 3rd, you're probably going to attack to the inside line, which is open. That's the whole idea, right? And with presenting that to you, I'm trying to get you to choose what I want you to do. Now, you have ways of defeating that, of fooling me, and all kinds of other good stuff, and that's great. That's what makes fencing so much fun. But that's what invitations are. The other thing that you should know about invitations is that we do those differently as well. So if this is my invitation in 4th, this is a pretty obvious invitation, right? If I do this in a bout, and I'm in a pretty high-level competition, it's a pretty obvious ploy. It's like, check out that forearm. Don't you want to hit that? You do. You should hit it. Go ahead. Come on. No one's going to fall for that, right? So instead of being over here, I might just keep my hand here. Just a little bit so you can see this, right? That might induce you to think, oh, he's not paying attention, or he's lazy, or he didn't learn this well. Everything's a trick. You can't trust anything. But that's a much more subtle way of giving an invitation. Lastly, parries. Parries close lines. They instead of opening them or inviting you to them, they block them. And a parry generally means you're moving from one position to another. So if I'm in 3rd and you attack me on my inside, I'm going to go to 4th or 1st. A nice kind of shorthand for this. Guards are defensive positions that we adopt with the weapon to close off one or more lines. Invitations are places we put the weapon to make you go to some other line. If I'm in my outside guard here, my 3rd, I want you to come to the inside. If I'm up here, I want you to go below that. If I'm in 2nd, I might want you to go up, right above it. Parries close off lines. We use those reactively. Somebody's coming at me and attacking, I want to stop them. So that's the basic difference. I've got a short clip that follows that kind of goes through the 7 guards, 6 guards, and sort of shows you some of those subtle things with a bit more room. It's just a shorthand. It's not exhaustive. So if you've got questions, comments, let me know, and we'll spend some more time on this. Down the road, we will talk more in depth about the way that these things change and the way that we get how to introduce that subtlety when you need it, things like that. Okay? Okay, this first section looks at the extended guards. We're starting with second and third, since those are our chief ones. And then I go through all 7. You'll notice how the fist doesn't move a whole lot. Now here, this is maybe a guard or a parry that's collapsed, and so it's a little tighter, a little closer to the body. The arm's a lot more bent. And lastly, I just go through some versions of invitations in third, slightly more subtle, fourth, slightly more subtle. And then I add some movement to kind of show you what that might look like if we were actually bouting. A little bit more obvious, a little bit more subtle.